from today onwards, the death of every Biafran will be avenged. We are dead already. When you see men, you will understand how determined we are. But there is one thing we have resolved to do.
Yeah, welcome. Hello, wonderful viewers. Welcome to the broadcast of today, reaching you from ancient Idu. Yeah, here we love to do what we know how to do best, and we'll tell this narrative the way it should be told or said by someone. That is why we are here. Alright? So our topic or title for today's broadcast is there on your screen. It says democracy and Africa. Democracy and Africa. Is it truly a system of governance, or is an oppressive system that was set in motion and given to the Africa, corrupt Africa? Because democracy has never been the African thing in the sense of what made Africa great before now. Even if the West happens to steal such an idea from the motherland, they took it there to their own countries, they remodeled it and brought it back to us. You know, everything that exists or that is made visible in the world at large, more especially the West, had always started off from the borderland here in Africa. And it was taken away to foreign lands. Then they remodeled it and brought it back to the motherland and gave it to them. So because it was remodeled, it wasn't the original. It now tilted on the negative side that has already put us, or the people of the motherland, in the situation or position they found themselves in. And it's a position or situation that is beyond redemption. It's a far cry from reality. And there is no way or how people are going to debate these things and have it solved. It must be proactive. It's no longer in making fair speeches anymore. When it comes to situations like this, we need to hammer down our voices on it and make an imprint that will be on the surface of our mindsets. The mind and the heart are two different things in us. One is in charge of blood regulation, which keeps you alive, while the other one is in charge of your thought process, which enables you to think and be differentiated from any other creatures that exist, or perhaps that has made you or made the process or the ideological concept of man is a higher animal. You know, that thing that makes you to have that thought process that made them say that man is a higher animal. But does the Africans truly have it? Do they have it? The answer is no. Because here, and I think in the last two broadcasts we made some time ago, the previous ones, We saw where the African leaders were busy hammering down the fact that their citizens or their fellow countrymen and women, youths and children should be shot dead. They gave the extra permission for extrajudicial killings of their own. It is not a strange thing in the space called Nigeria. That word is legal. It happens 24/7. Then Kenya did theirs. William Rotten Ruto did his. Shoot them in the leg. We are not going to show that one here. If you want to see it, check the previous broadcast that we made, and you will see it there. Shoot them in the leg. When you come to this channel or when you get hooked up to our broadcast, always learn or be patient to go through the end. Because, when it comes to information, not warfare now, but superhighway, laying it out, you must pay attention, because we are not serving your purpose to boost your empty ego. We are trying to lay down a foundation for something that will make you think, at least for once in your lifetime, as a human. That is only if you are truly a human. What brought us here today is about democracy. They are all crazy. That's Africans. That's why we are here. We are going to focus on Kenya, Rotten Ruto, so that you all will have an idea of what brought us out here. The man on your screen, it's Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. A man that has that pure vision that can bring about restoration and dignity. But his people sold him out for money. For money, they sold him out. And his people are beyond redemption. This ancient to do, we don't give a damn about who you are. We don't. So if you're an Igbo man, you come across this broadcast and you want to start feeling silly, you can as well go to hell. But especially the IPOB, the DOS, the Biafra, whatever. We don't care. And we will never ever care. You can go to hell. Because in this time that we find ourselves in, it's your ability to use your mind, which has to do with your thought process. The mind is here. Your mind is here. It's not here. According to the Igbos that don't know where their mind is. The Igbo man's mind is not just here. It is in the wallets. Their wallets. That's why they can sell you off at any time for money. For money. The Nigerian concept, their concept is not even the right one. It has to do with it. Money. They'll sell you out at any time. So long as you give them this. So the two men on your screen are two different entities, but united with one purpose. Dignity. One is living the reality of the dignity that he stands on. After over 16 assassination attempts, he's still standing strong. His name is Captain Ibrahim Traore. The other one was pushing it right, but his people, that are hungry money hookers, sold him out directly. Until this moment, every now and then you see them, they always brag like peacock, how the Igbos are industrious, how the world hates them or envies them, how they are always oppressing them, but God will always come to their rescue. The first primordial people God created, till today they are still useless, still waiting for that same God to come and help them. God is not going to come. Never, ever, until you wake up. until you wake up to reality and start doing good things or the right thing, perhaps. Who sang that song? Is it Bob Marley? How long shall they kill our prophet? Yeah, it's Bob Marley. Why we stand beside and look? But now, it's not they killing our prophet, it is us killing our own. Jesus said a prophet is not recognized in his own home, in his own land. When their own rise up to help them, they rise immediately against their own, take him out or take her out. Then they continue asking God, send us a savior. This time around, God is fed up of sending saviors to you people. Save yourself. Then God will meet you halfway. Without taking much of our time, let's get down to business. It's about Kenya. Ruto. This is Kenya. Go back. You see this man on your screen? This very entity. It's an African man. An African man. To those that loves respecting things like this, they call him elder, they call him father, they call him whatever. You see, here on Nation Idu, we don't respect you. We don't give a regard about whatsoever you are. We only respect the dignity that we see in you. Because old people can also be very foolish. In fact, far more foolish than the younger ones. So we don't respect fools. What's the name of that guy? Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre said, if you come across a fool, get all that you can get. Fela said, a fool at 40 is fool forever. You see, these two people, they are legends, and they passed their message via music. If you come across a fool, get all that you can get. How did it go? No questions. It's all about the DRP. I've forgotten the title of the track. For those of you that know, you know. And those of you that know Fela, you also know that Fela said it. So this man on your screen, why the Kenyan government is busy killing the Kenyan people, the only thing this useless evil man that is on your screen can say is, don't look at Traore. Traore doesn't represent democracy. He's just a useless man lying to the people, and they are using media to make him look good. Kenya is burning. The Kenyan youths and citizens are fed up of suffering. Why their president said shoot the Kenyan people, and they have been, without the president saying it, they have been shooting them. Now the president gave them, Ruto gave them a direct order. Kill them. Anyone that remains will meet in the courts and will still win them. That is what a democratically elected president of a country can say on television. It was captured by Gravitas. It was captured by Vantage. It was captured by CNN, Al Jazeera. He said it boldly. And all these channels aired what he said. They showed the world what Ruto said. Now, after the fallout of what Ruto said, here is another father of the land, a very useless man. Very useless. He was busy talking about Traore. Why Traore is useless. Why Traore doesn't represent democracy. They are in government in Kenya. They should have led by example by showing us the right democracy. But the only democracy that they know is tell the uniform people to shoot the Kenyan citizens. Now listen. You will hear it for yourself. Listen. All right, you just cool down. Where is the volume? I need you all to pay attention and listen to this band. This very one is for like 21 minutes, and I think we'll let it play all through. We might interject at some critical points where we need to say something, and we'll do that. So let's go there.
My friend, it's artificial intelligence. They don't converse in English, they converse in French. But conveniently, wanamweka kwamba anatoa story in very fluent English. It is artificial intelligence. Hakuna uongozi pale. Hiyo ni military government. It is a military government. It is not a civilian government. A civilian government utapata nafasi 2027 to make a decision in a civilian government.
Kenya calls itself a democracy, a beacon of East Africa. But if that's...
Hold on. Huh? There is something that this man said. It will play again and you will hear it. He said, no matter how corrupt or the errors that they would have made as a criminal elected official in the name of democracy, they are still far, far better than Traore. That anything Traore is doing is rubbish. That they are elected, even if they make mistakes, even if they steal money, they are still better. You will hear it from him. Continue.
It's true, then why is it so afraid of a man from Burkina Faso? He has no seat at the AU. He wears no tie. He didn't win by votes. He doesn't speak in polished English. He simply walks with a rifle, a promise, and a quiet nation behind him. Yet that silence echoes louder than any summit. Because now, Kenyan officials are trembling. And one of them finally said it out loud. This man is a mirage, an illusion, a threat to democracy itself. But let's pause right there. If he's just an illusion, why are they so desperate to shut him down? Stay with us, because this story isn't about one soldier. It's about the fear that grips a government when the people start looking elsewhere. It happened at the funeral, a quiet crowd, a solemn stage, and then an eruption. Musalia Mudavadi, Kenya's prime cabinet secretary, stepped up to the mic, and instead of honoring the dead, he fired a shot heard across the continent. What you see online, those masked faces, those uniforms, that's not leadership. That's theater. That's fear. A civilian government, even when stained, is always better than a military regime. He wasn't just speaking about Burkina Faso. He was pointing clearly and deliberately at one man, Captain Ibrahim Traore. And just like that, the gloves were off. Kenya had made its move. A democratic government, blood still fresh on its streets, had decided to discredit a leader thousands of miles away, a leader who hadn't attacked, hadn't insulted, hadn't even responded. So the question now isn't what did Traore say? It's this. What kind of government fears a man who hasn't even spoken? When a government speaks louder about a man in another country than about its own fallen citizens, you must pause and ask, what are they trying to distract us from? Because governments don't just lie, they divert. They wave their hands in one direction hoping you won't look at what's burning behind them. And right now something is burning in Kenya. Not just buildings, not just tires in the streets, but trust. The trust between a generation and their leaders, the last fragile bond, is being reduced to ash. In 2022, William Ruto rose to power, riding the hopes of the hustlers, the poor, the forgotten, the youth. He promised to end elite capture, to fight for those who sell maize on the roadside, who ride bodabodas through muddy alleys, who eat only once a day. He was not the establishment. He was their revenge against it. But what do you call it when the hustler becomes the hammer? Because just 2 years later, the very people who lifted Ruto into State House are the ones being chased, tear-gassed, shot, and buried without justice. In June 2024, the finance bill dropped like a bomb, an avalanche of new taxes on fuel, on flour, on diapers, on sanitary pads, even on the internet. It was not just about the numbers, it was about dignity. You cannot ask a starving mother to pay more for cooking oil while your ministers drive in convoys of armored luxury. You cannot raise taxes on a student's Wi-Fi while your friends in parliament steal billions from healthcare tenders. And so the youth rose. It began with TikToks, then it became marches, then bodies, then coffins. By July 2025, over 100 young people were confirmed dead in clashes with police. Their names trended for a day, then silence, no trials, no accountability, just numbers added to a growing list of state victims. One protester aged 19 was shot in the chest outside a supermarket. He had no weapon, only a phone and a cardboard sign that read, "We are hungry." Another 21 disappeared after tweeting criticism of the government. His body was found 3 days later, bruised, burned, tossed like garbage on the outskirts of Kisumu. And still the president stood at podiums and called this democracy. He called it order. He said Kenya must not become like failed states like Burkina Faso. But let us be honest. What kind of democracy kills children and jails artists? What kind of government beats the very people it claims to represent? The media has been muzzled. Critical journalists fired. Radio shows suspended. Bloggers arrested under vague cybercrime laws. And a chilling message now whispers across Nairobi: don't mention the president, they'll come for you. Even former Chief Justice David Maraga, once a symbol of Kenya's rule of law, broke his silence, calling for Ruto's impeachment, citing gross constitutional violations and betrayal of public trust. But impeachment means nothing if the system itself is cracked. Because what Kenya is experiencing isn't just political crisis, it's moral collapse. Unemployment among youth now sits above 35%, according to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. A university degree no longer guarantees anything but debt. Hustlers are hustling more than ever, but for less than ever. Suicide rates among young men have spiked. Mental health services underfunded, ignored. Meanwhile, the political elite thrive. New highways are built to private farms. Luxury apartments rise in places where clinics rot. The gap between the rulers and the ruled has become a canyon, and no bridge is being built. And in the midst of this unraveling, instead of fixing the crisis, the government points its finger outward. They say, look at Traoré. They say, be careful what you wish for. That's a military regime. That's not democracy. But let's ask a simple question. What exactly is Kenya trying to warn us against? That if we look too closely at Burkina Faso, we might see ourselves. That if we watch Traoré, we might start to wonder why our elected leaders are so allergic to action. That if we see a man in uniform build hospitals and ban foreign looting, we might start asking what our billion-dollar budgets are actually doing. Because here's the truth, Burkina Faso didn't send troops to Kenya. They didn't fund protests. They didn't hack anyone's election. They just existed. They just worked. They just showed a different model, one that's uncomfortable for anyone who rules by optics, not outcomes. Traoré didn't speak at the AU. He didn't make threats. But his silence spoke louder than Ruto's speeches. While Ruto held forums with IMF directors, Traoré held town halls with cassava farmers. While Kenya raised taxes to pay off Western debt, Burkina Faso rejected new loans and planted more sorghum. One country debates survival, the other is building sovereignty. And maybe that's why Ruto's administration feels threatened. Not because Traoré has power here, but because he's waking something up, something dangerous, something irreversible. An idea that Africa doesn't need to beg to survive, that leadership doesn't need suits or votes to be legitimate, only results. That maybe freedom isn't what the Constitution says. It's what your stomach feels. So let's be honest again. If a foreign president you've never met makes you question your own, if a farmer in fatigues rattles the halls of $1 billion capital, if one silent soldier terrifies a noisy regime, then maybe the problem isn't him. Maybe the problem is what they're trying to hide behind his name. He doesn't speak much. He doesn't attend global summits. He doesn't wear tailored suits or hire Western PR firms. He has no blue check mark, no entourage, no billion-dollar media machine behind him. And yet, his name is whispered in markets from Dakar to Nairobi. And when people say it, they do not say president, they say captain. Because something about that name, that title, that man feels different, not imposed, not manufactured, not inherited, earned. Ibrahim Traoré did not rise through ballots but through blood. Not in campaigns but in trenches. Not in press briefings but in silence. And that silence now speaks louder than any press conference Ruto could ever hold. But why? Why does this young man, barely 36, who governs one of Africa's poorest, most war-torn nations, terrify the political elite of Kenya, a country with skyscrapers, embassies, highways, and five-star conferences? The answer lies not in what he says, but in what he does. Let's begin with food. While Kenya imports maize and blames drought, Burkina Faso, under sanctions, under pressure, under threat, launches a $981 million food sovereignty program. Not from the IMF, not from France, not from begging, from within. He tells his people, we will plant or we will starve, but we will not borrow to eat. And they believe him. Tractors are dispatched. Land is redistributed. Wells are dug. Cassava is planted in ground where bullets once fell. And what begins as farming becomes something else, a spiritual act, a quiet rebellion. Because in a continent fed by foreign charity, growing your own food is a declaration of war on dependency. Now let's look at gold. While Kenya's elites secretly lease mines to multinationals, Traoré nationalizes every inch of Burkina Faso's gold sector. He expels French soldiers guarding extraction sites. He tells them, "You took enough, leave the rest to us." Within months, state revenue triples. Gold once stolen now builds schools. Hospitals once abandoned now open. And children once fed ideology now eat porridge. All without begging, all without fanfare, all without permission. That is the Traoré effect. He doesn't need to speak. He is spoken of. He doesn't tweet. He is quoted. He doesn't march. But his walk through the dust of Ouagadougou ripples across borders. Because for a generation that has never seen African success without Western strings, he is proof. Proof that dignity is not a Western export. Proof that sovereignty isn't a speech, it's a seed. And in Kenya, that seed is growing. On TikTok, his face appears in protest videos, not as a call to coup, but as a question, why not us? On Matatus, his slogans are painted in red, we don't beg, we build. In sermons, preachers quote him alongside scripture. As Captain Traoré said, we must till the land before it tilts us toward death. He has become an idea, and that is what Ruto's administration fears, not the man but the momentum. Because how do you fight a man who never raises his voice? How do you crush a movement that plants cassava, not Molotovs? How do you jail a thought? You can't. And so the government tries to mock it. They say he's a mirage, an illusion, AI-generated hero worship. They dismiss his story as rural fantasy. But deep down they feel the tremor. Because when your youth start quoting a soldier instead of senators, when your protesters chant the name of a leader who feeds his people while you tax flour, when your citizens compare the silence of Burkina Faso with the screams of Nairobi streets, you don't just have a PR problem, you have a legitimacy crisis. And here's the brutal irony, Traoré never asked for their attention. He never called out Kenya. He never even responded to Mudavadi's insult. Because real leaders don't clap back, they build forward. And that above all is what Kenya's regime cannot tolerate. In a continent where strongmen yell and do nothing, he whispers and transforms. In a world where aid is weaponized, he turns soil into strategy. In a time when democracy is defined by who wins elections, he redefines it by who lifts the poor. So now the choice is no longer about systems, military or civilian, it's about results. Who delivers, who defends, who digs, and the youth are watching. They see that Ruto flies to Brussels. But Traoré walks through the fields of Bobo Dioulasso. They see that Ruto signs bills. But Traoré signs deeds transferring land to widows. They see that Ruto speaks of GDP, but Traoré speaks of grain. And in that contrast, hope is reborn. Not naive hope, but grounded, gritty, cassava-stained hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, Africa doesn't need to choose between corruption and chaos, between ballots and batons. Hope that leadership can be silent, serious, sovereign. So when Kenyan leaders panic, when they smear, attack, mock, and deflect, know this, they're not afraid of coups. They're not afraid of soldiers. They're afraid of something far more powerful, an African man who stopped asking and started growing. They were told to vote, so they voted. They were told to wait, so they waited. They were told, don't take to the streets, take it to the ballot. And they did, but nothing changed. So they rose, not with guns, not with mobs, but with TikToks, posters, whistles, and prayers. They rose with their school shoes still on, with backpacks full of notebooks and broken hopes, with signs that read, "We are hungry, not violent." They were Kenya's Gen Z, and they were told again to shut up. On June 25, 2025, in the heart of Nairobi, the police opened fire on a protest of mostly teenagers, not terrorists, not looters, students, coders, poets. They fell in silence. Bleeding in the middle of Moi Avenue. Some ran to hide. Others ran to help. Many never came home. The footage is still online, but the government says we are investigating. They've been investigating for months. The only thing buried faster than the dead was the truth. At least 115 protesters have died since the finance bill revolt began. But the real number higher, always higher, because it includes the ones found in rivers, the ones disappeared after midnight, the ones killed not by bullets but by fear. Fear of speaking, fear of tweeting, fear of simply being young and asking for a future. And while this unfolds, Traoré says nothing. He doesn't call for protests. He doesn't appear on CNN. He doesn't mock Ruto. He just keeps walking head down, hands dirty, with cassava root and conviction. And yet, his presence is felt more than any president in Kenya. Why? Because he doesn't fight for attention. He fights for transformation. He doesn't promise reforms. He plants them. He doesn't go viral. He grows vegetables. And that contrast between the silenced Kenyan youth and the rising Burkinabe icon is now impossible to ignore. In Kenya, Gen Z cries, "We are hungry." In Burkina Faso, Traoré replies without a speech by delivering food. In Kenya, youth shout, "We want jobs." In Burkina Faso, Traoré doesn't tweet about employment. He gives them land. In Kenya, the youth are called thugs for marching. In Burkina Faso, they're called heroes for farming. And slowly across the continent, a quiet realization emerges. Leadership is not about the title, it's about the touch. Traoré touches soil. Ruto touches microphones. Traoré sits with farmers. Ruto stands with financiers. Traoré walks with the poor. Ruto drives past them, escorted and blind. And that's why Kenya's streets are chanting Traoré's name without him ever asking. He has become the mirror, the one that forces an entire generation to look at their own leaders and whisper, "You had the chance." He took the responsibility. He's not perfect. Burkina Faso still faces threats, hardship, insurgency. But every tree planted under his rule, every field reclaimed, every woman given a plot of land speaks louder than 10 years of Kenyan press conferences. Because in the end, the battle is no longer between youth and police. It is between faith and betrayal, between what could be and what has been denied. And Kenya's Gen Z is tired of denial. They want what every young person wants tomorrow. A reason to stay, to build, to believe. But when that reason is shot at, gassed, censored, what's left? A vacuum. And in that vacuum, Traoré's image has risen not just as a man, but as a metaphor. He is not just the leader of Burkina Faso. He is the manifestation of every African youth's buried potential, every dream dismissed, every idea laughed at, every moment someone said, "You're too young, you don't understand." And suddenly, in the dust of Ouagadougou, they see someone who understands, who doesn't just listen but acts, who doesn't campaign but cultivates. So, what happens next? Do Kenyan youth keep dying while waiting for another election? Do they keep watching their future get auctioned off in IMF boardrooms? Do they keep apologizing for being alive in a country built to suffocate them? Or do they plant something of their own? Maybe not a cassava field, maybe not a revolution, but a thought, a refusal, a belief that they deserve more than pain and patience. And if you're reading this, ask yourself, have you been silent too long? Has hope become too risky to carry? Because Traoré is not coming to Kenya, but his shadow already has. And it stretches across classrooms, street corners, WhatsApp chats, and prayer circles. It does not yell. It doesn't even knock. It just waits for someone like you to answer. They say Kenya is a democracy. They say we voted, we have a constitution, we have courts, we have freedom. But what is freedom if it must ask permission to cry? What is democracy if it only appears on the ballot but vanishes at the hospital door, the police checkpoint, the morgue? If a young man dies in protest and no minister resigns? If a teenager disappears and no judge demands truth? If a president raises taxes with no mercy, then punishes those who speak? Is that democracy, or is it a more elegant domination, one wrapped in the language of liberty, one signed with pens of parliament, one aired live on TV, smiling, shaking hands with foreign donors as your child buries their friend? Traoré never claimed to be democratic. He never asked to be called legitimate by the West. But let us ask, when was the last time your elected leader grew his own food? When was the last time your MP rode public transport? When was the last time your taxes built something that fed you, healed you, protected you? If that is democracy, then let's be brave enough to redefine it. Not as the right to vote once every 5 years, but as the right to live with dignity every single day. Because right now, the people of Kenya are not choosing between...
You are wonderful people. You heard all that. Huh? It's not for the right to vote every 5 years or every 4 years. But now it is for the Kenyan people to live as humans. You see, the ideological concept or corrupt concept that is in the head of these political bandits that represent demon craft or demon crazy or demo crazy. What is in their head is that no matter how stained a politically elected demon is in Africa, that they are still far better than the one on uniform, than a military man. How about the countries that had their president that was a former military man that dumped the camouflage, the military regalia, and decided to wear suit? Ruto is on suit. They are speaking all manners of English, using all manners of adjective, metaphor, irony, and every other stuff. But they don't know the plight of the people. That is African politicians. 1,000,000% disconnected from the people they are meant to serve or the people they are meant to rescue. How can they step into office and within 2 years become the beast that should never have been in the office? You had the guts to say shoot them. Now the political class in an event, a burial event, people should be in a sober mode because it was a burial event. They just used the opportunity to lash out. The one in Burkina Faso wearing mask, covering his face. Is that what you came or he went to the burial to do? You see, Africans, more especially the fathers of Africa, this parent system of Africa that is dying away, they are worse than Lucifer. Any opportunity, you see, these people are opportunists. Any opportunity they see, and that's how witchcraft operates. Any opportunity given, the slightest opportunity, even if it's for a genuine reason, they will convert it and use it for an evil thing, evil purpose. At a burial, you can make a time to talk about a man that was busy or that is busy even right now building up his country, caring for the citizens. Why Kenyans are protesting in the street, being shot and killed? The people of Burkina Faso are living in harmony with their president and they are building the country together. This program is not meant to be for long because what I wanted to bring up here is the highways, the Bobo Dulasso highways, and even the airport that is being built by the Burkinabe citizens with their Minister of Works and Housing. Everyone, they are out there building the country together. This is the first time you see military or the government and the people coming together to work side by side. This is the first time in the history of Africa that you see the ruling class coming out with the citizens to fight terrorism. This is the first time. This is the first time in the history of the world now, not even in Africa, of the world, where Islam and Christianity will come together, take their religion, throw it away, and say we are humans. In Africa, Burkina Faso, then you have idiots, educated fools, according to Clue, educated fools with money in their hands. They are there, speaking English. Speaking English. The more someone speaks English or a particular lingua franca to prove a point that they are fluent in that language, then start suspecting that person. Like Asians do for now. We hate something. The moment you come to us and say, oh, I'm a born again, I'm a Christian, you become a suspect immediately. We focus our attention with keen interest on you, and any error that comes from you will hammer you immediately because we hate that term when you come. Instead of introducing yourself and being humble, next thing you say you are a born again, you are a man of God. You want to assume something and put it before so that I will revere you and treat you special. No, I won't treat you special. The only special treatment I will give you is judgmental treatment, and it comes with brutality. So that next time you will learn to say, oh, my name is Kingsley, and this is my occupation, or this is who I am, this is what I stand for. That is the way. If you say, oh, my name is Frank, this is what I am, this is what I stand for. Don't come to me and say, oh, my name is Pastor Frank, Pastor Kingsley, Pastor. That day, you will see your God, the God that made you the pastor. That day, you will see that God. This is the thing that spoils the land, the motherland. Ruto, always on suit, speaking English, moving, black monkey. What concerns a monkey with a suit? That is the African politicians for you. We don't have apology for that. This is ancient to do. Share this broadcast, let it go far and wide. That is why we are ancient to do. We don't care, and we will never ever care. So if you want to be offended, you are welcome to be offended. So let us move over to the next one quickly. In this very video, how many minutes is it? I don't know. But this very video, okay. We are going to break down something here. This is a terrorist. In this particular video, it's a terrorist that was captured. That was captured in I think, Niger. He was captured in Niger. A high premium terrorist that eludes security. How does he do it? The NGO, the missionary, just name it. They are the ones fueling this catastrophe in Africa. They are the ones directly behind it. The UN aid agencies, they are the ones directly behind it. The man will confess, but Niger says, we are sorry. We cannot forgive. We cannot forget. You have to go. Just listen to him. Listen to the broadcast. Let's go there.
Among them, a man with no name, or they thought no one was watching. A convoy moved silently through the dunes of Agadez, cloaked in dust and deception. Among them, a man with no name, or rather, too many names. He said his name was Abubakar Buber Bella, just a driver. Just a passerby. Just another shadow in the Sahel. But he was not. His fingerprints had burned villages. His footsteps had echoed through the ashes of Libya. His eyes had seen things that make the desert hold its breath. His real name was Barhadine Maydown. A former Libyan officer. A ghost from a broken regime. A fugitive of a war no one wants to admit still rages. And Niger caught him. But the real question is not how. It is why, and who sent him. Because what lies beneath this arrest is a story the world has tried to bury beneath headlines and silence. Before we uncover what Barhadine Maydown really was, a terrorist or a pawn, ask yourself. Who profits from chaos in Africa? And why does it always start from the same place? If you believe this story must be heard, like, comment, and subscribe. This is no ordinary capture. It may be the first strike in a hidden war. When questioned by the Nigerian security forces, he did not stutter. My name is Abubakar Buber Bella, he said. A driver by trade. A man with no past. But the soldiers had seen his face before, in intelligence reports, in dossiers. In the aftermath of massacres. He had changed names. But not his path. Captured in the Agadez region while leading armed fighters through the desert, Barhadine Maydown, once a Libyan army officer, now stood exposed. Unmasked. The desert, however, does not forget. And Niger does not forgive. He was not born in Niger. He was bred in the ashes of a foreign fire. Barhadine Maydown did not come from the sand, he came from the ruins. Once a soldier in Libya's fractured army, he walked away from his flag the day NATO dropped democracy from the sky. In 2011, the West declared war on a nation it did not understand. With precision bombs and promises of freedom, Libya was split open, not surgically, but savagely. The state collapsed. Borders bled. And out of the chaos rose warlords, scavengers, and men like Maydown. He was not the worst, but he was efficient. He trained under commanders who once wore Western uniforms. He studied maps marked by foreign intelligence. He memorized targets, villages in Mali, convoys in Niger, and recruitment centers hidden in the Sahel's silence. By the time the world turned its gaze away from Libya, Maydown had already crossed into the Sahel. But he did not come alone. He brought arms. He brought ideology. He brought instructions. And above all, he brought money. Libya was not a mistake. It was a mechanism. Ask any honest analyst and they will tell you, after Libya fell, the floodgates opened. Weapons once secured by the state flowed into black markets. Fighters once loyal to Gaddafi splintered into factions. And behind many of those factions, you will find the fingerprints of Western consultants, faceless men who never wear uniforms, yet always leave scars. Maydown operated with shocking precision. Too much, some say, for a rogue militia leader. His timing, his movement, even his evasion tactics, they resemble trained special forces, said one officer in Niger, speaking off record. It's as if someone coached him for this desert war. Indeed, many believe Maydown was no ordinary fighter. He was a vector, a carrier of something deeper, more designed. Why Niger? Why now? Because the Sahel, once a forgotten frontier, has become the battlefield of global reordering. The AES alliance, forged by Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, represents not just a military union, but an ideological threat to the old order. An Africa that chooses sovereignty over subservience, cooperation over colonization, unity over dependency. To those clinging to the old world's grip on Africa, that is dangerous. The Sahel must be destabilized. The new alliance must be distracted. The people must be discouraged. And so, men like Maydown arrive. Not randomly. Not independently. But, perhaps, as part of a larger strategy. If you believe Maydown crossed the desert alone, you have not been paying attention. That's what Captain Ibrahim Traoré warned last year, in a speech the West tried to ignore. He spoke of terrorism as a fire lit in Libya, not by religion, not by poverty, but by geopolitical greed. And what a fire it has become. The people of Niger know this fire. They have seen villages disappear under it. They have seen markets bombed, roads ambushed, and children recruited before they could read. But now, for the first time in years, the fire is being answered. Not by begging the West for air support. Not by hosting foreign bases. But by building their own defense. The capture of Barhadine Maydown was not luck. It was the result of intelligence-led tracking, cross-border cooperation within AES, and a refusal to be passive observers in their own tragedy. It was, in many ways, a declaration. "We are not your buffer zone," said General Abdourahmane Tiani, the president of Niger, in a recent briefing. "We are not here to absorb your chaos. We will not host your wars. And we will not raise your monsters anymore." The arrest of Maydown is not the end of a threat. It is the beginning of an awakening. Because to confront a system like this, you must name it. And Maydown's name is just the start. If you believe Africa has the right to defend its future, drop your voice in the comments. Tell the world, we are not fooled. This is not just about one man with a false name. It is about the truth we are no longer afraid to speak. What the world calls silence is often a battlefield with the sound turned off. After the arrest of Barhadine Maydown, global headlines moved on. A few agencies reported the incident with diplomatic restraint. A handful of foreign ministries issued vague statements about regional security. But in Niger, something deeper stirred. Something that could not be written in press releases. It was not just the men they had caught. It was the system he belonged to. Behind every warlord lies a web of supply chains. Funding routes, safe houses, and silence, a machinery of terror that moves quietly, without flags, without uniforms. And in the Sahel, that machinery has long been misread, misnamed, or ignored. Until now. Niger's armed forces had not stumbled into Maydown by chance. His arrest was not luck. It was the result of weeks of quiet surveillance, of nights without sleep, of soldiers disguised as villagers, intelligence officers posing as traitors, and commanders using maps not drawn in Western capitals but drawn from memory, from wounds, from the whispers of those who still believed the land could be reclaimed. What unfolded in Agadez was not an operation. It was a revelation. Maydown had made one mistake. He believed he was still invisible. But something had shifted in the Sahel. Since the rise of the AES alliance, since Traoré, Goïta, and Kiani tore up the old scripts written by embassies and advisors, a new doctrine had taken shape: security without subservience, intelligence without dependence. And most importantly, memory without amnesia. These new leaders understood what was never written in any NATO briefing, that terrorism in the Sahel had never been just ideology. It had been a tool, used to destabilize, to justify military presence, to keep Africa looking outward for solutions. But Niger, under Tiani, began looking inward. It started to listen not to satellite data from Paris, but to shepherds who noticed unfamiliar footprints near their wells. To merchants who remembered what Maydown looked like before he changed names. To mothers who whispered the names of missing sons in exchange for a chance to be heard. The intelligence that brought down Maydown did not come from drones. It came from the ground. In the weeks leading to his capture, a quiet map was built, a human map. A woman in Timia who sold satellite phone chargers noticed a man asking questions about military convoys. A teenage boy in Arlit saw someone bury a crate under the sand and marked the spot with stones. A retired colonel, long dismissed by international advisors as too nationalistic, connected the dots with a pencil and a page. Piece by piece, the shadow was made visible. And then came the turning point. A decrypted message, intercepted on a makeshift frequency: the driver crosses on the new moon. No flags. No comms. Contact only if intercepted. That driver was Maydown. His alias, Buber Bella. The operation that followed was not flashy. It was not filmed for foreign donors. It was swift, local, precise. And it ended with a man, once invisible, now shackled by truth. But the real capture was not just of Maydown. It was the exposure of the network that shielded him. The fake NGOs that moved medical supplies across unsecured borders. The so-called journalists who arrived before every major attack, but never published stories. The sudden infrastructure projects funded by overseas groups that seemed to follow the same route as the arms convoys. In the interrogation room, Maydown said little. But his silence said enough. His sat phone held numbers linked to logistics coordinators in Tripoli, to arms brokers in Ojdabia, and to a certain private firm with a London address that no longer existed, except on paper. Niger's military intelligence did not wait for approval from foreign embassies. They followed the trail. And what they found was staggering. Not just networks, but methods. Not just names, but intentions. There were files marked with village names weeks before those villages were attacked. There were instructions on when to escalate violence in proximity to international conferences. There were payments, large ones, made in cryptocurrency, in anticipation of media silence. It was not just terror. It was orchestration. And perhaps the most damning discovery was this: in a memo dated 8 months prior, a Western risk advisory group had warned its contractors to avoid Agadez due to expected instability. That was before any attacks had occurred. Someone had known. Someone had predicted the chaos, not to prevent it, but to time it. And in that moment, Niger understood the war it was truly fighting. Not just against Maydown. Not just against jihadists. But against an architecture of shadow, carefully built, meticulously denied, profitably maintained. So the question changed. It was no longer, how do we stop these men? It became, how many are still hiding behind institutions? Because when Maydown was unmasked, the mask tore at more than one face. In military circles within AES, a phrase began to spread: we do not just defend borders. We defend memory. It was not about nostalgia. It was about reclaiming the right to define danger. To choose who is a threat, to refuse the language of dependency. The West had long demanded African loyalty in exchange for information. But now, information flowed in a different direction. From Niger's deserts. From Mali's forests. From Burkina's villages. They were building their own intelligence. No consultants. No observers. No intermediaries. Just men and women who had lived the war, bled from it, buried their children because of it, and who now decided to see with their own eyes. This was the real threat to those who profited from darkness, not guns. But clarity. Not warlords, but warriors with purpose. And as the world looked elsewhere, a quiet revolution of knowing had begun. No announcements. No declarations. Just the rustling of sand. And the snapping of old chains, link by link. There comes a moment when a nation no longer asks for permission to defend itself. For years, the Sahel was spoken of as fragile. Unstable, in need of foreign support. They called its people vulnerable, its borders porous, its governments transitional. But something changed the day Barhadine Maydown was brought into custody. It was not just that he had been caught. It was the way he was caught, not by a foreign drone, not by an international task force, but by Nigerians, on Nigerian soil, using Nigerian intelligence. For the first time in a long time, the empire of silence that had smothered the Sahel began to crack. No more second chances. That phrase echoed across every military base, from Niamey to Tilaberi. It was repeated in villages still rebuilding after raids, in the trenches dug not for war, but for survival. It became more than a slogan. It became a principle. In the interrogation room, Maydown offered the usual excuses: he was forced, he was misled, he never ordered the killings. He said he had information, that he could help, that perhaps there was still a place for him. But the officers in the room did not flinch. They had heard it all before. They had buried enough children to know what mercy had cost them. Across the Sahel, in the wake of his arrest, stories began to surface. Survivors of villages once too afraid to speak began naming names.
Yeah, people, you all can see what actually played out. The guy that they captured, and the people behind the event going on in Africa. It's a shame that certain people will rise up to be used to destroy their own country. Africa is a mess. Shithole is an upgraded version of trying to make them feel valuable, because from the shithole you can get manure, and from that manure you can do vegetation and all those things. But it is worse than that. It's worse than that. How can you be paid and influenced by the same West to destabilize your own continent, specific region, including your own country? That guy broke out from Libya. I'm pretty sure that that particular guy, whatever his name is, I can't pronounce it. I don't need to have jaw problems. He was against Gaddafi. These are eternal sellouts. They sell out for nickel. They sell out for pickle. They sell out for pennies, cents. They sell out for anything. In the West, you can never ever have such. Even in the Asian world, you can never ever have such. These people prioritize their identity, their origin, their freedom, their sovereignty. They prioritize it. And they come together to ensure that they lift up their own nations. But in Africa, from Libya, now his base of operation is to destabilize other regions in Africa. The scripture says, Galatians, who bewitched you? Africans. Who bewitched you? Nobody but yourselves. It's a shame. The other one said, oh, Kenya, they are hoping after 4 years, maybe they will. That's the Nigerian mantra for you. Oh, today we have missed it, God knows why. Don't worry, in the next 4 years, we'll do it again. Before the next 4 years, a new problem will surface. We'll keep galloping, just like that. Go rigmaroling, dilly-dally, from pillar to post, just like that. We keep shunting like fox. And later, we'll come out amongst the League of Men to speak English and talk about freedom. Who does that? It's a food for thought. Are we going to wake up? Are we going to wake up and face the truth, fix ourselves? Or we'll keep jumping and beating around the bush? With so many content makers, so many media personalities, it is rare, it's very, very difficult to see them to come out with objective content that will challenge the foolishness of you, the Africa. You know why? They want to go according to the media platform standard so that their pages or their monetization will not shrink. So they rather lie, promote lie, falsehood than to say the truth. This guy has met his Waterloo, his end in the jail. They say they are not going to leave him. International organizations, international governments of other countries, Western world, now they are mounting pressure on Niger that the terrorists they captured has human rights, that he deserves fair justice, or he should be moved to The Hague where they will try him in a fair way. But this man has decimated countless villages. He's responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Niger people, innocent people. Now they caught him. The West now rose up, started fighting for the right of a murderer because that guy was their boy. That was their boy. Each and every time you capture a terrorist in Africa, the West will rise up. What is the name of that organization? Amnesty International or Legnesty International. They will rise up to fight for the right of a mass murderer. But they will never ever fight for the right of the innocent. They said it is not that the guy was invincible, but because he was serving a purpose of the West, that is why he appeared to be invincible. But meanwhile, he's not invincible. You can capture him like a rabbit, and they finally caught him. The West rose up. America is speaking. Israel is speaking. Britain is speaking. France is speaking. Germany is speaking. The guy deserves fair justice. Who does that? Qasem Soleimani was ripped apart with a bomb, a special bomb for him, because he killed American citizens. That was why they had to kill him that way. Then now, we now have the American-made boys killing in the name of terrorism. Then when we capture, United Nations will rise up, Amnesty will rise up, start talking about rights. That they should move the terrorists to their country for trial. Why can't we try them in our own land? Where they committed a crime, they must be tried there and executed there. This is ancient to do. We say it the way we should say it. Huh? We don't care. We are not here for YouTube monetization or anything. We are not here for it. We say it the way we need to say it. It's a shame. Kenya is burning and boiling. The Kenyan leadership, they are fighting Traore that he doesn't represent democracy. But the democratically elected man said, shoot them in the leg. Kill them all. They are terrorists. He's calling on armed citizens. A 19-year-old boy, his chest was ripped apart by several gunshots from the Kenyan military. They killed him. He only held a placard like this, that we are hungry. And they gave him bullets. Ruto said the child was a terrorist. And when we speak against people like that, you see the religious class rising up to say, you are going to hell for speaking. That the Bible says, pray for your leaders. We won't pray for our leaders. We will burn them alive with their families. That is the way the land should start treating every evil leader that stands up to say nonsense. Shoot them, shoot them. How can the president say such? In Kenya, shoot them. They are terrorists. You heard what Gravitas or Vantage said. He wasn't talking about the terrorists. He wasn't talking about criminals, but the youths of Kenya, that they should shoot them. Who does that? It can only happen in Africa. That's why Wike came out. After killing thousands of people in Obibo, Wike said, I will blow off your head. You will die like vulture. We will kill you. After all, we have been killing you. This time around, we will kill you. We will cut off your hands, bury you. Your parents won't know where you went to or where you are. After they look for you for a period of time, they will forget about you and will kill more. Wike said that on TV. On TV. The video is here. Go back to our previous broadcast, 2 previous broadcasts. Watch it to the end. You will see it there. These are African leaders. Buhari said before the evil man died, he said, what did he say? We will speak to them in a language they will understand. We will get the military and the police to shoot them. Nigerian presidents. Why is it that every African elected president, what they love to do is to shoot their citizens, kill them? They say it on TV. And any African president that said such and does such, the West will praise them and give them award. That is why they are emboldened to do such. So when they do such, you know their family. You know where they come from. We are not hiding it. This is what we do. We are not hiding it. You know where they come from. Make them understand that they too can feel pain. By the time you meet them halfway, Africa will change for the best. So with this, we have come to the end of the broadcast of today. We'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.
When my